All right. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to have a little virtual floral class demonstration by the fabulous Logan of the School of Styling based out of New Orleans, Louisiana. So, with that said, Logan, go ahead and take it away. Tell us a little bit about the School of Styling and the arrangement that we'll be making today.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I am really excited to be doing this today. I am Logan Dories, and I am the owner of the School of Styling, and we are a creative community for we call creative entrepreneurs. So anyone in the creative industry or anyone in the creative realm, we host virtual events and also in-person events. Our signature 3-day workshop is kind of what we're known for. We have one coming up in the fall. Plans are underway for that. But in all of our workshops, we always have a floral design class because I think one, it's always good to do something with your hands and just kind of be creative. Even if you've never worked with flowers before, it's always fun to kind of deal with pretty materials and kind of think outside the box. And with all the education that we're giving, we just find it really fun and relaxing to be able to take a step out of the classroom and do a little something fun and just kind of creative. And the fun part about that is that you can always kind of recreate things at home. So we're all spending so much time in our homes right now. And I just wanted to do something a little simple and fun and just teach you guys that you can find these materials like at your local grocery store, make it super simple and just, have a beautiful arrangement for Valentine's Day. Obviously, I was really into the pinks and the reds to kind of celebrate the holiday, but I always recommend just kind of checking out your grocery store when you are grabbing those items for your home. There's always a great selection. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. I will tell you guys what I'm working with. I tried to stick with the basics just so you didn't have to run out and buy a ton of things. But this is a super simple base. It's very short, so that's going to make it a lot easier to work with the materials that we have here. You can typically use floral tape or Oasis, which is like the green floral foam that you've probably seen at events before, or floral cage. But for today, just some white duct tape, and I made a little grid, so that'll come in handy for us when we're placing those flowers later. I have just regular pair of scissors, and then if you have floral clips, that always makes it a little bit easier, but again, like, scissors are a great alternative. So what I have today, we're going to be working with, these are spray roses. These are my favorite flowers. They're so small and sweet and can really just dress up any little bouquet. These are gerber daisies, and they were just so, such pretty colors, so I grabbed those as well. And then of course we have these beautiful baby pink flowers, roses as well. And then we've got some myrtle greenery and some podosporum, which are super straight but bendable. So these are great like for a base. And I really love to use a lot of variety of greenery. I know if you guys checked out the recipe, I had eucalyptus on there, which is super easy to use that I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. So greenery can kind of just be whatever you guys want. And then I also grabbed a greenery bouquet. So this is just like a variety of berries and things like that that we can add in as we go just to kind of make it a little bit fun. So to get started, I always recommend processing your flowers. So they're going to come wrapped in plastic, rubber band like you would traditionally see, and you want to just go ahead and measure it out. So I kind of just measure super easily there to kind of see where we need to go ahead and start cutting. And you're just going to cut kind of right at the base. To an angle, and then you're going to want to rip the bottom leaves off. You don't want a ton of leaves or anything sitting in the flowers because that's going to make your arrangement go bad sooner. So you just want like the very basics in the water, and then you can go ahead and just start placing throughout and kind of just measuring it along the way. Like there's no real science behind how far you want the greenery to stick out. If you want kind of an overflowing bouquet, that's fine too. Or if you want it kind of short and more structured, totally up to you. We can always make it shorter, cut it longer. So yeah, I'm gonna start with myrtle here, which is, like I said, super bendable. I love this because I like it kind of a mix between structured and kind of naturally styled. So I think this is the best one to use because eucalyptus definitely is more, what do we say, like natural. So that's definitely going to give you more of that like wild look. So yeah, you just kind of pull these leaves off at the bottom here. You guys can see that. And this also smells really good. It has like a very herby smell, or that's why I love using like mint or even basil sometimes, because it just makes that, flower arrangement smell even better. Just gonna go ahead and place this. So there's, again, like no real rhyme or reason to where I'm placing this, because we're just kind of creating our base here. So we'll just kind of go and place throughout the vase to kind of give it a little bit of a foundation before we start with the fun stuff of the flowers. And then of course we'll always go back and add more greenery at the end. I'm a big greenery fan, so I always like to use a ton of it in my arrangements. But I think just having a little flower arrangement, whether you keep it, on your table right when you walk in your home, or on the kitchen table where you have breakfast, or especially if you're having a romantic Valentine's Day at home, it definitely just kind of elevates things. And if you can get everything at your local grocery store, well, then that's even better. So this is a good base here. We kind of just have them poking out kind of all different ways. You can see my little grid kind of holding things in place. And then I'll start with just a few of these. These are a little bit more structured, so more of like a stick foundation there. So they're not going to be like as bendable, but they're more full. So I like these because they'll kind of create more space. So, you definitely don't want to have like a lot of holes in your arrangement. Okay, then we're going to move on. Now these are spray roses, like I said. They come with like a bunch per stem, and they're just great because they can create fillers, but they're also so pretty. So I love these flowers. So just kind of place these. So when I'm putting them in, I'm kind of going diagonal instead of straight down, so things can just kind of layer on top of each other. Same thing, just pulling off those leaves, pulling off any extra stems. So we don't want anything floating in the water. And then I'm just kind of cutting them, at an angle. You can cut them as short as you need, but they're great because they just kind of like sit on the edge right there. So that creates a really great foundation for our arrangement. And so these guys, I just could not pass them up. They're so pretty, so simple. And I love these because they create a huge space in your arrangement. So right away, you put that in there and you just, that's going to make a really big impact. I am, of course, like drawn to more of the neutral colors when I make arrangements. Like I love doing a lot of whites and blues. I have a little boy at home, so I find myself just naturally drawn to blue lately, but I couldn't pass up these beautiful red flowers too, just to kind of end the season of Valentine's Day. Why not, right? So I'm just going to kind of place these. I like starting kind of on the perimeter and working my way in, but that's just a personal preference. I don't know if there's anything scientific about that. So just kind of placing these all different spots throughout. And then obviously we want to come with our big roses. So these are pretty tight. They didn't have a lot of super open ones at the store. So what you can kind of do is gently like place your finger around the outside of the flower and just gently kind of open it up to give you that look of the, you want, there you go, there. You can always blow. And that just kind of creates more of that vibrant, open flower that you want. So I'm going to keep just building with our spray roses here. I just think these make such a good impact. You can always like break them into pieces if you just want one little rose, or if you want the whole bunch. There's no rhyme or reason to that. You can just kind of do whatever feels good.
those of you just joining us, Logan is just going through the floral arrangement. I went ahead and popped in the chat the supply list if you wanted to make it at home. A lot of these items can really just be found around your household. The duct tape, for instance, that's what you can use to kind of hold the flowers in place without floral foam or a frog pin like we were discussing earlier. And then all of these flowers can really be bought store-bought. I have a quick question for you, Logan. What are some other good kind of store-bought flowers that you're kind of go-tos? I know we've got the daisies, we've got the spray roses and whatnot. What are some other ones that you feel like go a long way for, get a good bang for your buck in these kind of arrangements?
Sure. So typically what you can always find at the grocery store are roses. I always see hydrangeas. Every now and then you get really lucky and find like a ranunculus or a peony, which are just so great and so beautiful and like are just very popular in weddings and events right now. But I find that roses, tulips, hydrangeas even can last a long time. All that you really want to do when you are shopping for flowers in the store, it's right when you get home, you want to make sure you're processing them, like I said at the beginning. So that's just trimming about an inch off of the bottom, kind of cut at a diagonal, pulling off all the leaves. So when you have everything sitting in the water, it's just the stems, because anything else, like any extra leaves or petals that fall into the water, it's just going to make that water go bad sooner. And then changing out your water every like 3 to 4 days will also really help with elongating the flower life too. And then, storing them in a cool place will help out too. So especially in the winter, things tend to last a little bit longer. But yeah, I think, and especially even the greenery, like I was saying earlier, if you're one who also really likes greenery, I would say that the greenery is going to last longer than the blooms anyway. So getting like an abundance of a good greenery base, and then just maybe like popping in a few flowers, such as roses or things like that, that'll also help your arrangement last a little bit longer too. But I love hydrangeas. I think they get a bad rep of going bad quickly, but I think if you care for them and you trim them up and changing your water, they can actually last quite a while. Great question. Can everyone see okay? Let's see, get them. Get a better song on for us. Okay. So this stuff smells so good. This is called myrtle. Again, for anyone who's just joining us, and this is just some of my favorite greenery. It smells so good. It's also really great like for the holidays. If you guys can see, it kind of has like that boxwood feel. So that's just going to give our arrangement some height here. So if you can kind of see where we are now, got some spray roses here. So we'll start giving it some height with our roses here, just pulling off those leaves, cutting off the end. There we go. So I often find myself kind of going back and pulling things out once I've already put them in the arrangement to kind of trim them up or move them around. So it can definitely feel like one of those things that are never finished when it comes to flowers. I'm sure if you're an artist or a painter or anything like that, you probably experienced the same thing too. So this is just another great filler. Here, I'm just kind of sticking straight down to kind of close in the gaps as we work towards the center of our arrangement. So I'm gonna pull a few more.
Logan, I see that you're using kind of a pedestal type of vase. What are some other kind of vases that you feel like might work for an arrangement of this kind?
Yeah, so I'm just kind of storing some of the flowers, and this is another great one. As you can see, it's kind of big on the bottom, but skinny on top. So this is really great if you don't have any, like if you just want to grab some flowers and stick them in a vase. I love this one because it'll kind of just have them stand up and kind of sprout out, kind of just like these. Like I feel like even that is, pretty enough. I also love this one too. So if I'm ever doing flowers for like a family get together, anything like that, I love using kind of a bigger vase on my table in the front of the house. So right when you walk in, it's kind of more like an impactful arrangement. And when I would use something like this, it's just a lot less cutting, a lot less maneuvering. You kind of can just start with the greenery and kind of place your things. You don't really have to measure anything out. So if ever I just like want to grab some greenery and hydrangeas, I love using just kind of like a tall, skinny vase like this. This one is great for if you're having like, you want to put this on a tablescape or something like that because it's low. So people sitting across from each other can still have a conversation without flowers obstructing their view or getting in the way, things like that. So that's why I really love these vases. I will say, the shorter the vase, it is a little bit trickier because you don't have as much room to kind of finagle and place everything. So that's where the duct tape comes in handy there. Or flower tape, or if you want to do something more professional.
Excellent.
But yeah, I remember a friend was watching me make one time. She's like, "You're just using duct tape?" I said, "Well, yeah, it's the same, similar to floral tape. Use what you have." But yeah, so now these flowers, the roses, the stem is pretty sturdy, so that's why these are great for kind of bringing in that height because they'll stand straight up. Whereas the daisies, you'll see, it's more bendy, so that's why I like using these around the perimeter, and the rose is kind of more to provide that height. So I'm going to, let's see, these are fun, just like little berries, if you guys can see that. So going to add these in for some height as well, and just pulling off those stems. So we just get the stem is the only thing in the arrangement.
Logan, we just had a great question from Townley. She asked, is there any way to increase the volume? Kind of maybe what sort of flowers really go the furthest in an arrangement? And are there any tips of increasing volume? And I have that same issue too. I think I buy so many flowers and then I end up having to go in the backyard to put, shove in some branches and whatnot. So give us some tips on creating volume.
Yeah, no, that is a great question. So I think I put this on the recipe, but like some great filler flowers or baby's breath, you're going to really see that at a lot of different grocery stores. And that kind of just has that like really flimsy feel. You can kind of bunch up as many together, kind of pull those out. And those are going to create a lot of great volume. Also chamomile, it's these really pretty flowers. It's got white petals with like a yellow center. And those are great. It's the same kind of feel where this is similar where it's just kind of, see how it kind of like pops out a little bit. So that's going to create some volume without taking up a ton of space, like this leaf, for instance. So you can kind of like not bury it, but you can kind of use this to kind of support your other flowers without it kind of stealing the show, if that makes sense. But I think anything within that realm of like the baby's breath, the chamomile, those types of flowers create really good volume. And I would just start with that, like right after your greenery base, kind of fill in as much as you can with the filler flower before putting in like your actual stems. And that's going to create a lot of volume there. That's a great question. But yeah, I think we've all been there where we're going in the backyard to search for some extra greenery, because I definitely get that way too, where I just want to buy all the flowers. So if you guys want to see here, I am pretty much done the foundation. The perimeter's pretty much all full. You don't see any of the vase peeking out. That's kind of one of my pet peeves. Like you want to make sure all the holes around are filled. So no matter whatever angle you're looking at the arrangement from, it looks like that's the front, if that makes sense. And then so now you guys can see, we're just going to go ahead and fill the holes on top. So that's what, again, where this great like volume comes from, something like this. And I'll stick kind of straight up there. And then if you ever have a flower or something like this where it's like more than one stem, you want to make sure that there's no ends poking out. So you can just kind of go through and trim it. So you cut it right at the base and it looks like that's just part of it, instead of like, you don't want a big edge kind of hanging out. You want to make sure there's always something, whether it's greenery or bloom on the end of that. Just kind of makes it look a little bit nicer. More of these spray roses. These are just so great. And these are so affordable. I think they're like between $5 and $6 for a whole bundle. So these just really go a long way. Get a lot of bang for your buck. So we'll kind of stick those straight up there. Go for a few more of these berries. So again, I would love it if these flowers were just a little bit more open. Like, as you can see, they're pretty tight. So as the days go on, these will kind of open up a little bit more and make a bigger difference. So I just can get a little impatient. I just like to open them up a little bit. I know there's like a lot of different techniques florists use to kind of make that happen. Even if you have some time, like if you're making this for a specific event and you want them to just be more open, you can always, if you have nice sunny weather, just pop them in a vase and stick them outside in the sun. Within a couple hours, they'll open a little bit more as well. So these are our daisies here. And just trim these up a little bit more. These are great for filling holes in your arrangement. As you can see, the circumference is just so big, so they can really make a big difference. And you just see I'm kind of pushing those down in there so they're closer to the base, so they just, you know, fill up anything. You don't see all these stems poking out. It's just flowers when you look straight down, which is nice. And then there's no real rhyme or reason to the different directions I'm putting them in, just kind of making sure that you have like a different varying heights of things. So you don't want everything, you know, all in one. That's going to create just too much structure. So that's why you kind of want to go in and out when you are placing flowers. So you guys can see like these roses are all different, varying heights. Just creates a little bit more texture that way. So we'll do a little pop of red here in the front. So these are a little bit trickier. They're not as firm as the roses, so you can't really, they always maybe sometimes need a little friend to lean on, so you can kind of create a little bit of a bridge there for these guys. Let's come back with some more. These are Pittosporum, these guys. So again, they're not the easiest because it's like pretty sturdy stem here, but they do take up quite a bit of space, which is nice. So I'm just gonna create a little spot in my duct tape for this guy. There we go. Like I said, I am constantly going back and pulling things out and making changes.
It's looking great.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I love it. And I love it that it's also, it's a beautiful 360 view. I know a lot of times when I'm making an arrangement, I'll make it all so it looks pretty from one end, and then I put it in the middle of the table and it looks terrible from behind. So it's looking really beautiful though. And I love, again, that it's all from supplies that we can find ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so many times I have done flowers for friends events and things like that. And I have always just loved the selection at, you know, of course, everyone has their favorite grocery store. So I always check out the flower selection. And more often than not, I just grab some, even if I have nothing going on, because it just makes me happy to have flowers in the house. So look, here's a good example. I missed this earlier, but you guys see that little stem there, so there's no flower on the end of that bloom. So you just come through and cut it as close to the base as you can. So there's just, you know, nothing popping out that doesn't have something on the end of it. So there we go. Now it's all flowers there. And then just pop that right back in. So we're getting close to the end here, guys, but basically you can see here, sorry, you know, like she was saying, you want to keep rotating it to make sure that no matter which side you look at, it kind of has a lot of that blooms, that all the edges of the vases are covered. So you don't see any holes or spaces that might be a little smooth. So see here, it's kind of tucked under. You can't really see that red bloom. Just want to kind of pop it out a little bit more to get that fullness there. And then here on our top, we just have some greenery, some blooms, and I put a lot of the daisies just kind of close down to the base. So that really creates like, you know, covers up that space, which is what we want. And then again, if you're using something like Oasis, that foam block that we talked about earlier, that makes it a little bit easier because you're not working with like a specific grid, like with the duct tape. So you can kind of just put things wherever, but you have to be a little bit careful with it. If you're putting a bunch of flowers in and taking them out and putting them back in, that can kind of damage your block, and then it doesn't hold the flowers as easily. Cut this down a little bit more. Get that close to the base. So again, just making sure you have bearing heights. And then like I said at the beginning, I kind of like mine a little wild. So I like, you know, some greenery kind of poking out, but if you want something a little bit more structured, again, you know, we can always trim this up a little bit, not have it as crazy, but I love things that are kind of more wide than tall. For that reason, this is going to go on my table. So definitely want it to create a lot of space horizontally and not vertically. And then if you have extra blooms like this or something, I love, you can get like a small vase, even if you have like a mason jar or something at home, putting just a few loose blooms in a mason jar with some water in your bathroom. I think that always like makes a big difference. You know, next to your toothbrush, you can have a little joy in the morning when you're getting ready. You know, if you don't have enough for another full arrangement. Especially in the South, everybody has a mason jar at home, right? Okay.
If anybody has any other questions for Logan, please go ahead and feel free to drop them in the chat. But yeah, we'll let her kind of finish getting things set up with our gorgeous arrangement here. And I just want to thank everybody for stopping by to this class today.
Thank y'all so much. Of course, I could sit here the rest of the afternoon adding greenery. So I'll just go ahead and add a few more pieces and call it a day, right? But these berries are so fun. I just grabbed, these came with the daisies, and I just thought it was really fun to just add in a few of these. I wouldn't probably buy a whole bunch of them because I've only used them sparingly. Like the myrtle, I bought a whole bundle of, but these are fun to just kind of place throughout. And these are just very similar to how I was saying earlier about the baby's breath or the chamomile. You can just kind of pop them anywhere. So yeah. Here we go. Here's our arrangement. So perfect Valentine's Day. We've got some pinks, got some reds. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you all so much for tuning in today.